In this video, I want to talk with you about 4 reasons why health professionals, health business owners must have a webinar in their business. Hey guys, what's going on? Yuri came here, CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. And I want to give you 4 important reasons why having a webinar in your business is just such a crucial piece of your marketing. So, and just to be clear, what I'm talking about here is an evergreen webinar. So a webinar you do once and that's running 24/7 on your behalf. It's not a live webinar you do once, twice, 5 times a week. The reason I don't recommend live webinars for the most part nowadays is because the show up rate is very, very low. And in order to fill a live webinar, you end up running a launch type of business where if you're running a live webinar on a weekly basis or monthly basis, you're having to promote it like it's a big launch every single time. Get people to sign up, then send them several reminder emails to show up. It's way too much work for a very little payoff. Are conversions going to be better on a live webinar? Yeah, for sure. But is the trade-off worth it? Not at all. We've been using evergreen webinars now between my previous business and this business now for more than 12 years. And it's exactly what we help our clients build in their businesses. It's a fundamental piece of the perfect client pipeline, which is your marketing / client acquisition system for your business. Okay. So here are the 4 reasons why you need to have a webinar. Number 1 is that it provides immense value to your audience. So my take on this is this, like, you guys know I love creating content, but you also have to remember that I created 0 content for Healthpreneur for the first almost a year and a half. All I focused on was building out our perfect client pipeline, not really building it out, but making sure that it was optimized to the point where I could step away from a lot of the doingness and then get into stuff like this. The only piece of content you really need to grow your health business, especially online, to more than 7 figures is one webinar. And I know that sounds like a big, bold claim, but it's true because I've done it and I've seen my clients do it as well. Now, are there other ways to build a successful business? 1,000,000%. But what do you want? Would you rather have a system and a business that works for you, or do you want to keep grinding away, posting content every single day that no one sees? So a good webinar is very important because it's fundamentally like the documentary. It's your documentary. And it's not like, we're not saying you have to produce a documentary, right? We're talking about a keynote PowerPoint presentation that's anywhere from about 45 to 60 minutes in length. And it's just really valuable for the people watching to get different perspectives and ahas on a specific topic that they're interested in, that you happen to be the expert in. And like, all you need is one good webinar. That's it. And then it's just a matter of driving traffic to that webinar, which is the first piece of the perfect client pipeline. So if you don't like selling, it's very important to do a better job with your marketing. And if you want more people to show up on the call, on a discovery call with you, that are pre-qualified, they're already kind of bought into your solution, having a good webinar that people commit their time to watching makes a huge difference. Now, you might say, well, Yuri, people these days have an attention span that's less than a goldfish. I read this on wherever. And that might be true. But let me ask you this. How many hours a week do you spend watching movies, Netflix, etc.? Quite a few, right? Probably more than 45 minutes. And I share this to say that whenever it's something important to us, we'll devote the time, right? You might say, well, I'm not the type of person that watches webinars until it's something mission critical for your life or your business, and then you will, right? We see this all the time with our clients. I'm not the type of person who watches webinars, but I watched this webinar 3 times because it solved a major problem in that person's life and business that our webinar was helping to address. And it's the same with your clients. They're dealing with weight issues, health issues. You have a solution they can learn about in the webinar. They will watch it. One of my most successful webinars in my previous health business was 2 hours and 45 minutes. And it worked very, very, very well. Okay. So the number 1 reason is it provides an immense amount of value. The more value you add to your audience, the more is going to come back to you. Okay. Number two is, and I touched on this a little bit, is that it encapsulates your philosophy. Keyword underline in bold is philosophy around a topic of your expertise, and it positions you as the authority. This is where a lot of people go wrong if they have a webinar, is they just teach all the how-to. And what I'd like to suggest to you is don't think about your webinar as giving away the how. It's showing know-how without the how. So you're showing expertise and topic subject matter, by taking a stance, taking a position in the marketplace. And you're basically going to, break people's beliefs. You're going to confirm their suspicions, and you're going to introduce your methodology, which just makes a lot more sense, at least for some people. And that's the essence of the webinar. So again, I use the example of a documentary. A documentary's purpose is not to be an objective presentation. In some cases it might be, but for the most part, if you think of any documentary you've watched, the producer, the filmmaker had a very specific agenda of what they wanted to put out into the world. And the documentary simply was that. Your webinar should have a very specific agenda of you sharing your philosophy that might be polarizing, might be contrarian, and that's okay. Because when people are watching this, they need to think in the back of their minds, like, yes, this makes sense. What this person's saying is like really hitting home, so that by the end of the webinar, the next step would be to possibly book a call with you. Now, the better you market, the less you have to sell, as I've mentioned many times before. So this is your opportunity to simply add tremendous value, share your philosophy around this topic area, and get people, pre-indoctrinated, if you will, into your way of seeing the world. The nice thing about marketing is that there's no objective truth, right? Think about the world of nutrition. One dietitian says milk is the devil. Another one says it's the best thing ever. One person says paleo is amazing. The next person says veganism is the only way to go. So it doesn't really matter, because you can find research to support either one. You probably have case studies in either scenario as well to show proof for your methodology. What I'm sharing here is that your goal is not to be objectively, factual. Now, you're obviously not going to lie, but the key is you have to take a stance. You have to draw a line in the sand, and marketing is about sharing what you believe more than what you know. And there's no better opportunity than sharing that in the form of a webinar where you have someone's captive attention for 40 to 60 minutes, and it's just incredibly valuable and very immersive for them. So again, it's philosophical in nature. As an example, like my webinar, if you've watched it, I'm very, very clear about charging higher prices, organic reaches, like organic posting is dead. Right? That running Facebook ads is just smart. Learning how to build a system and assets in your business makes sense. And doing all these kind of posting nonsense videos on social media is a joke. Now, you could play devil's advocate to all of that stuff, but I'm sharing my philosophy, my opinion, my point of view in terms of building a business, having been doing this now for close to 20 years. I'm not just making this stuff up. Right? So it really becomes an amazing opportunity to kind of create your platform and build authority in a specific area by sharing what you believe to be true. Okay, so that's the second big reason. Third reason having a webinar is powerful is that, as I mentioned before, it reduces the need or the amount of selling and convincing that's necessary. What you want to have happen eventually is the perfect world is people show up on a phone call with you, and they're like, here's my credit card. I've watched all of your stuff. It's amazing. Now, that's the benefit of being in business for many, many years, in some cases decades. Now, that takes a very long time to get to. The closest we can get in a very short amount of time is by having a webinar. The reality is this, guys, like if you've watched all of my YouTube videos, you're drinking the Yuri Kool-Aid, right? It's going to be very easy. At some level, you're like, I'm going to work with this guy, maybe tomorrow, maybe next year at some point. And maybe some other people are like, I would kill myself if I had to work with this guy. And that's totally fine. Like I don't care about serving everyone. But the key here is that the more people consume of your stuff, the easier it's going to be to sell, because they're selling themselves. right? That's why I say the better you market, the less you have to sell. So we take the time frame of 10 plus years of content marketing. And if you want to do that, by all means, go for it. But if you need to pay the bills in the meantime, and you'd rather build wealth and help more people quickly, then the closest we can get to time compressing that is by having one webinar that a lot of people watch. Because the more people watch it, again, you're encapsulating, like if you were to watch all of my videos on YouTube, they are essentially extensions of my 60-minute webinar. It's really that simple. So if you want the condensed version, watch the webinar. If you want to spend hundreds of hours watching my stuff, which would be amazing, watch all my YouTube videos. It's the same content, just said in a multitude of different ways. So when you're able to craft a webinar in the right manner, you're able to get people coming into your world who are like warmed up, they're qualified, they're more committed, because people who are not committed are not going to spend a couple minutes watching your webinar. They're going to say it's too long. You're going to say goodbye, because those are not the clients you want to work with. Okay. So again, it reduces the amount of selling and convincing necessary. You're able to bring people into having a conversation with you that are already pre-qualified, pre-warmed, and more ready to say yes to working with you. And the fourth reason, I'm just looking at some of my notes here, following suit to what I just said, is that it filters out tire kickers, and it only allows the right, most committed people to move to the next step. So again, perfect client pipeline mapped out: Facebook ad, webinar, application, phone call. Okay, so we're talking about the second piece here, which is the webinar. If people don't want to watch a 45-minute webinar, guess what? You're gonna give them a version that's 5 minutes? No, you're gonna tell them to take a hike and best of luck elsewhere. So it filters people out. It's beautiful. You have a lot of people coming in, and you're not gonna have all the same people at the end. 100 people start, maybe 10 people finish. And that's amazing, because those 10 people at the end are very different people than the 100 people who said, yes, I'm interested in this, right? Yes, I'm gonna lose 20 pounds this New Year's. No, you're not, right? Because you're gonna give up in February like most people do, but it's the people who keep going. Those are the people that make all the difference. And that's the same thing with the webinar here, is that we're saying we're not gonna help everyone. We're gonna use this as a filtering tool to allow the right people to raise their hand to move to the next step. Because here's the thing, one of the biggest mistakes I see health professionals make is, you go to their website, book a call with me now. Here's a free 45-minute discovery call. I'm like, are you crazy? Burnout is the #1 problem in our industry, and you're just giving away your calendar at will to anyone? Big mistake. So when you have a gatekeeper like a webinar, #1, it adds value. #2, it educates people about your way of doing things. And #3, it ensures that the only way people can book a call with you is by watching your webinar first. Because unless you like explaining yourself every single time you speak with someone, you should have a webinar that does that for you. If someone's like, hey, if I ever have a conversation and someone's like, hey, what do you do? I'm like, I'm not even going to answer that question. Watch this webinar. If you like what you see, let me know. That's it. So I don't have time to waste. If people don't know what I do, I haven't done a good enough job at putting a message in front of them. So what am I going to do? I'm going to sit on the phone and explain why I'm different, why I'm better. No. That's a lose-lose situation. You only want to be speaking with people who get it, who buy into your philosophy, who've gone through your content in the form of a webinar and are partially or in total agreement with you, so that when you speak with them, they're like, this makes a lot of sense for me. I agree with what you said. That's the power. That's why you need one good webinar in your business. It will transform everything. Okay. So if you don't know how to do this, obviously, you can reach out for help. We can certainly have a conversation to see if it would be a good fit to help you. But nonetheless, hopefully this has been valuable for you. If you've enjoyed this and you're watching this on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and by all means, watch the hundreds of other videos I have here to help you with your health business online. And that is all for today. Hope you have an amazing one. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you soon.